Good morning, everyone. We are with Stephen Young. He is a good friend of mine and an absolute legend. We have been working together for quite some time, and I'm quite excited for today's discussion with him. It is a hot discussion that's on everyone's lips at the moment, and it's all about cryptocurrency. Can you believe it? Stephen, how are you, buddy?
Hey Grant, good. I'm doing well. Hope you guys are all being safe in this crazy time.
Yeah, what a crazy time, eh, Stephen?
I know. Yeah, like who would have thought a year ago we'd all be stuck at home, not being able to move, not being able to travel. But yeah, like we're all safe.
Yeah, so we lack a safe and sound, but you know, this epidemic that we're actually facing at the moment is very much playing into the arms of the whole cryptocurrency space. So, but before we get into those dynamics, just give us from a layman's perspective. I'm a man on the street. Tell me, what is cryptocurrency?
Okay, cool. So it all started really with Bitcoin, and like you said, it's a very, very appropriate time to be talking about this right now because Bitcoin was really released as a response to the 2008 global financial crisis. So we saw these kind of cracks in the traditional financial system, you know, volatility spiking through the roof, liquidity drying up. And then there's these group of people, they were called cypherpunks, but they were really looking at building a money that's both private, but also not completely independent from the existing financial system. So it's doesn't rely on banks or governments or any of the traditional systems to function. So if you think about Bitcoin, it gets quite technical about like how it does that. I don't think most people need to understand that, kind of in the same way that most people don't need to understand how fractional reserve banking works. You just need to know that if I go to the bank and I put my card in, I put my PIN, I get some money out. So I'm not going to go too deeply into the technical side of it. You can go read the white paper if you want to, and there's lots of good content online for that. But it's probably better to think about like how to think about Bitcoin as opposed to trying to understand the technical side of it. And I look at Bitcoin primarily as like a store of value and an insurance in case something really bad happens in the financial system. So we've been seeing kind of instabilities for a while, and like, you know, this whole COVID thing and people just printing money, you know, like it's going out of fashion. You know, the chances of something really bad happening to the financial system are higher now than it's been in a very long time. So having some insurance for me is kind of a responsible thing to do. So mainly I see it as a store of value. You can do transactions with it, but it's a little bit slow. You know, can't compare the speed of the transaction network to something like Visa. But you know, it's coming there, and they're improving the network. So what is this Bitcoin network? So the Bitcoin network is a bunch of computers spread across the entire world. And what they do is they essentially run this algorithm that ensures that everybody in the world who run those networks know who owns how many Bitcoins. You can't spend a Bitcoin more than once, so that you don't end up, I don't end up paying you and then paying somebody else with that same money. And everybody can verify that who owns what. And then these algorithms make sure that all of these computers across the world agree. And because these computers are spread across the entire world, it's very hard for somebody to hack or affect that network, even to the extent that if like nation states, you know, like the governments can't shut it down because there's just too many of those computers spread across too many places across the world. So that's Bitcoin. Since then, you know, people have taken that idea of Bitcoin and kind of run with it and tried to do other things. So the most notable other cryptocurrency probably is Ethereum. And if you think about Bitcoin as a digital gold, so it's a way to store wealth. Ethereum is kind of almost like a digital oil in that it powers like computation. So Ethereum allows you, it's essentially this world computer where anybody can write these, what they call smart contracts, and these smart contracts are guaranteed to execute, which allows you to do more complex financial instruments than just money, which is what Bitcoin is. And then there's thousands of others that have all kind of come from there and all trying to do different things.
Okay, cool. So if we think about it, I mean, the whole back end behind cryptocurrency is liberal parties trying to get away from centralization and getting to direct peer-to-peer and getting rid of the middleman. So just talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So if you think about, if I want to pay you, so say I owe you $100, I need to transfer money to you. Unless I have cash and we meet in person, I can't do that peer-to-peer. At the moment, that's the only way we can, you and I can get involved, can give each other value without getting a third party involved, is with actual physical notes. If I want to transfer you money, so say I do a FNB transfer, and you're with ABSA. So I need to first go to FNB, ask FNB to send money to ABSA. Then ABSA takes that money and puts it in your account. And if at any point any of those parties decide that they don't like us, they can just cut us off from that access. So the famous case was Wikipedia, for example. So if you believed in Wikipedia, you couldn't pay them with the credit card because the American government cut them off from the SWIFT network. So that's kind of where this whole peer-to-peer notion comes in. The other thing that's also important about that is, even with cash, we're still trusting the government, right? So we're trusting the government to behave responsibly, not waste money, not steal stuff, not print too much money to get themselves out of trouble. So I'll leave it up to you if you decide to trust governments to do those kind of things. I think we've had quite a lot of evidence that that's not always the case. Some countries are better than others, but at some point, even the mighty, big kind of trustworthy countries can fall, as we've been seeing, left, right, and center at the moment.
Yeah. So if we look at the evolution of money, I mean, looking back hundreds of years back, we started with trade, and then we went from trade to bank deposits. And then from bank deposit, we started with gold coins and silver coins. And then it went from that to notes and then to checkbooks. And then in the last couple of years, it's expedited quite substantially. And it's gone from checkbooks to electronic transfers, from electronic transfers to credit cards to now we're looking at cryptocurrencies. And we've got the likes of the Snapchats and the SnapScans and the Zappers, which are pretty much peer-to-peer transferring companies. But tell me, in my mind, if I look at the evolution of money, if we carry on looking at it like cryptocurrencies, the next step, if someone wants to get started, where do they get started?
Yeah, sure. So I think it is quite important to understand those kind of like big picture arcs. I would just start with Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum, just because everything else it came from those two places. So Bitcoin and Ethereum are kind of like the two main ones that everybody kind of split off from. There are others that are like completely unrelated, but they're still very kind of niche, and most people shouldn't be playing in those if they don't know really what they're doing. So I would focus on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Andreas Antonopoulos, he's got a really, really good YouTube channel, and he's got a lot of really good content that's basically aimed at the beginner and focuses quite a lot on like a big thing to understand about Bitcoin is that it's not just a money, it's also a bit of a political movement, it's also a bit of a belief system, and it comes from a certain kind of place, like you said, with this liberal ideology, kind of borderless, free access, open innovation. So there's quite a lot of what makes it powerful is how they're going about building these things and these core principles that they adhere to. So Andreas Antonopoulos' videos are very good for that. He's also got a really good book called The Internet of Money, which is basically a transcript of a number of his most popular talks. So I really recommend that. And then for people who are a little bit more interested in like economics and financial stuff, then the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Amos is also a really, really good book. That's a little bit more kind of on economics, and it kind of looks at gold and Bitcoin and comparing the financial system when it was on a gold standard to when it wasn't, and then making a case for Bitcoin becoming like the modern day version of the gold standard.
Awesome.
having said that, you kind of have a little bit of a broad picture, understand what's going on. When you want to start investing, I would say start with something very small. So one of the things to understand about Bitcoin is, like cash, it's a bearer instrument. So what that means is whoever has the key that says he owns it, owns it. So if I lose that, it's gone. In the same way that if I drop, a 100 Rand note and it blows away in the wind, there's nothing I can go to the bank and say to them, hey, I lost my 100 Rand note. Give me another one. So Bitcoin is the same. So, and there's a few kind of weird technical things. So I would start with a very small amount, a couple of 100 Rand, buy it, send it to, set up an account for yourself, set up an account for your friend or your wife, transfer between the two, just kind of get a little bit of kind of used to like how this thing works, and then go and do a larger investment. And if you're going to do a larger investment, be careful about going in too heavy. So unless you really understand the industry and you're very close to it, I wouldn't put in more than say 2 to 5% of your portfolio into this. Little enough that you could afford losing it. But if something goes wrong with the current financial system and Bitcoin does what it can do, the upside is much, much higher than the downside. You can lose basically what you put in, but you could make 5-10x what you put in. But that's not guaranteed. It's very risky. Depends on a lot of other things going on. But like I said, it's a hedge against the traditional financial system running into serious trouble.
Yeah, I think I like that approach. I think to everyone who's listening, we obviously disclosing, we're not giving any advice here, but we're rather giving reference points and getting everyone into a place where they feel more confident in understanding cryptocurrencies in a whole. But having said that, I mean, that's really good advice. What sort of platforms? I mean, there's so many platforms out there. What platforms do you think are really good platforms for guys to approach? Because obviously we don't want people to get into trouble, because there is platforms out there that are completely suspect, and they have jumped on this bandwagon of cryptocurrencies, and they could be closing down quite soon. So which platforms would you recommend for South Africans? And if there's people out there listening that are not South Africans, which ones would you recommend for them?
Yeah, so you're right. There's scammers all over the place, and I think it's a side effect of, I heard somebody say that crypto is everything you don't understand about money combined with everything you don't understand about computers.
Oh dear.
When it's complicated like that, there's lots of kind of people trying to take a chance to capitalize on that and kind of, take advantage of people. So I would stick with the big brands for if you're going to get started. So if you're a kind of retail investor, you just want to put in a little bit of money, and you're not going to be trading into lots of different altcoins and kind of doing proper like day trading, I would look at something like Luno. They've got a great app. They've been around for a long time, well funded. They're kind of expanding all over the world. So they're really good. It's very simple, kind of geared more towards the kind of everyday man. Then if you're looking at a little bit more kind of pro trading, and you want to be able to kind of put in stop losses and, like not just do market orders, then Valor and Binance are two other options. Valor is also a South African company. They recently closed an investment round with a big international exchange, and then Binance is a big global exchange that's kind of breaking ground in South Africa and Africa in a serious way. So they're very good to consider. If you've got international bank accounts and you've got funds in say Europe or the US, when the markets are very hot, like they've been over the last little while, we sometimes pay a premium in South Africa for Bitcoin, just because of the exchange controls. So when lots of people are buying and no new Bitcoin is flowing into the country, there's sometimes a tiny little premium over the dollar prices. So if you can buy in dollars, it's sometimes cheaper for you to buy from there. And in that case, I'd look at things like Coinbase. Binance has also got an international arm, so you can pay them with USD or British pounds and euros. So that's kind of where I would start. I would be very careful about anything that says guaranteed returns anywhere on the website. You should not sign
Stay
up
far away.
Yeah, because there's just there's no such thing. You know, if there's good returns, there's risk. So never believe someone who says guaranteed returns. That's the easiest way to spot a scam.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that's really, really helpful. I mean, it takes out a lot of the noise out there, and it just brings you down to a few options. Now, I mean, you have mentioned quite a few dangers along the way, but what would you say, like, are your top, let's say, 2 concerns that you really want to warn people on? I mean, if you've got more than 2, you're welcome to give, but like the 2 big ones, you know?
Yeah, so I think we've mentioned 2 of the big ones is Ponzi schemes. You know, so anybody who says, send me your Bitcoin and I'll send you more back, like, you know, that's normally either a Ponzi scheme or they're just going to disappear with your money. And also these trading bots, you get these people who've written these little algorithms that allow you to trade. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The markets is very volatile. Things change very quickly. So, you know, if you just want some Bitcoin exposure, that's not where I would put it. I would just buy some Bitcoin and hold it and keep it. If you then want to take a very small percentage of your Bitcoin investment and play with it, that's fine. But don't put everything into some big thing. The potential upside is so high, like being greedy, trying to get 2 or 3 more % by putting it into this very dodgy thing is just not worth the risk. Other big thing is exchange hacks and phishing scams. So the Bitcoin network has never been hacked, but the companies that operate on top of it, so like exchanges, like wallets, you know, like in it's kind of hedge funds, they sometimes get hacked. So even though the Bitcoin network is completely secure, they might not have put proper network security in place on their systems, which then gets their things compromised. So that can be dangerous. It's getting less of an issue now because a lot of these players have been around for a while. They've got quite a lot of capital. So mostly the big players they'll absorb the cost if they get hacked and not expose their clients to that. And the other big thing is phishing scams. So you'll often find people, you know, saying, so you sign up for a Luno account and then they'll send you a message saying, hey, it's the Luno team, please reset your password. You know? Yeah. So same as with banking, be very, very careful. Like a lot of these exchanges follow the same practices of banks. They'll never send you a text message asking you to sign into your account. They'll never send you an email with a link to click through on, you know, so just be very, very careful. And then the last thing is just that there is a lot of volatility in this market. So the prices do run up a lot, but they also crash a lot. So there's a lot of people that have lost a lot of money in crypto, even during the bull run, just because they got their timing wrong. So, you know, just be careful with that. You know, if everybody in the world is jumping in and buying and the prices look crazy, like they likely are starting to get crazy. So just be careful. It's the people that I've seen who've done well in crypto mostly just bought and hold. You know, so some people trade and they make money for a little while, but it's unless you really, really know what you're doing, trading is not the thing to be doing with crypto.
Yeah, I think even the guys that really know what they do can get caught out there because it's so volatile. Hey, and I think you're spot on. And I liked what you said earlier is that, listen, this is not something that you want to go put a big percentage of your portfolio in. You need to just be cautious, obviously. And we think it's early days, but technically it's actually not early days for cryptocurrency, right?
Well, yeah, it's been around now since 2009 or so. I mean, the Bitcoin market cap is bigger than Coca-Cola. It's been around, you know, like just think what you would, you know, if you had a tech startup that had, you know, 200 billion in value locked up and was completely global and had like millions of users across the world. Can you imagine the valuation, right? So if Twitter had or Square had produced a product like Bitcoin, that company would be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So they've been around for 12 years, and the longer it's been around, the longer it's likely to stay around. So it's not that new. And also the other big criticism that was kind of leveled towards Bitcoin before was like, yeah, it's fine when things are good, but it's never survived the downturn. So, well, you know, we've kind of had the worst downturn in the kind of recorded history, and it's fine. It's outperforming most other, you know, didn't, you know, the price dropped a little bit, but kind of the network was completely healthy. Price is more than recovered again now. We're likely to see new all-time highs this year, I think. So yeah, I think it's kind of proven its resiliency now.
Yeah, and like my last question before I give you some closing off words is, Bitcoin at the moment, we've got about 8 million Bitcoins out there. And I think in total, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins ever released by the year 21,000. So what does that mean from a supply and demand, from a Bitcoin price perspective?
Yeah, so that's the very interesting thing, right? So there's a load of people now trying to figure out, well, how do you value this thing? You know, it's a brand new thing, doesn't have cash flows like a business. It's not gold, but it's kind of like gold, and it's not like a currency, but it's kind of a currency. So people are trying to figure it out. So there are some valuation models. One that seems to be gaining quite a lot of traction is the stock to flow model. It's way too complicated to kind of get into, but essentially what it does is it compares how much Bitcoin exists to how much new Bitcoin gets created every year. And you can do the same for gold. And up until, so around about, I think it was April, May. So it was early May, the Bitcoin halving happened. And essentially what that does is every 4 years, the Bitcoin network starts producing half as much new Bitcoin every day as it used to. That's why you kind of end up at like a peak of 21 million in, I think it's 2140 or so. So basically, like the new supply is going down, which means its stock to flow ratio keeps going up. And you can kind of plot the price of an asset based on its stock to flow ratio. So up until early this year, Bitcoin was less scarce than gold. Since April, it's more scarce than gold. And you've already seen the price starting to tick up. So basically what's happening now is, and it happens, there's this 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. So every 4 years, the supply gets halved. There's still, most people who end up buying Bitcoin, a large percentage of them end up becoming what's called hodlers, which is like hold, but just spelled slightly wrong. And basically they just buy Bitcoin and they never sell. So, you know, I bought my Bitcoin in 2017 and I haven't sold any. And there's more and more people that are kind of doing that. And then there's less and less new Bitcoin being created, and there's more and more people starting to become interested in Bitcoin, and there's more and more dollars, so there's inflation. So there's basically everything is lined up for the price to go up. But again, let's see, you know, we haven't seen this thing happen before. But that's basically what's been happening every 4 years. So every 4 years, we have the halving cycle, like 18 to 24 months after that, you have this massive bull run. Lots of people start getting freaked out that they're going to miss out on this run, and they start buying, and the prices go up. And as the prices go up, more people want to buy in. And then you get into these really crazy valuations like we had in kind of 2017, 2018, you know, when we shoot up to $20,000. And then typically it drops by about 80% and then recovers again and then stagnates for about 2 years. We've just kind of coming to the end of that 2-year stagnation period. Then you have another halving, and then the cycle repeats. So just be very careful around that. Understand that like it's going to get very exciting. If you invest now, you're going to feel like that you're getting rich. But just know that it goes up and it goes down. If you hold over the long term, it's really good. If you got really good timing, it can also be good. But most people your emotions kind of take over and you make bad decisions. So let's just be careful.
Awesome, man. I think that was super insightful. So before we end off, what is your last little bits of wise words for us?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, be careful, don't get greedy. Like those, kind of the same with any investing, right? You can lose money on anything if your timing is bad, and you can make money on anything if your timing is good. So think about when you buy. Just because Bitcoin is a good thing to buy doesn't mean that right now is the right time to buy. So just think about that, and then know that you're going to experience the price tripling and then halving and then doubling and then like falling by 80% and then doubling again. You just have to get used to it. You know, if you like get upset because your equity fund dropped by 4%, just imagine how you're going to feel when you lose 80% of your value in Bitcoin. And so you need to know that you're going to experience those massive ups and downs, but the general trajectory is up faster than pretty much any other assets that you can buy right now. Don't invest more you can lose. And then I would say either hold for the long term or don't buy when everybody else is buying. So if you buy and hold for the long term and you can sit out 2 of those boom bust cycles, you're pretty much guaranteed of making money. So if you look at the Bitcoin in profit right now, 80% of Bitcoin ever bought, 90% of all Bitcoin bought was bought for less than the current price right now. You know, if you just wait long enough, the upside comes. If you fast, if you can't wait and you're greedy, you know, you can get in a lot of trouble.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for that. If people want to drop a line or a little question to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, sure. So best is probably to find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Stephen, STEPHEN _YO. And yeah, if you ping me on there, I normally respond quite quickly.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. We really appreciate your time today. We just want to let everyone know that we will be dropping down all the resources in the comment section. If you got any questions, send us some comments. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. And please hit subscribe if you want to get notified of any further stuff. Stephen, have a lekker day, buddy.
Thanks, guys. You too, man.
Chat later. Bye.